Shadow Typhlosion hits the field of play with 2 shields to hide behind. I very quickly invest the first Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming Sacred Sword. The opponent not wanting to concede a farm down, send out Gator. Typhlosion gonna look for some chip into action, firing off the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch force the final Protect Shield. We go for the wham, bam, combo play. Send out Chesnaught. Hi Gator, bye Gator. Welcome back to the channel. Today is Tuesday, which means it's League Rotation Day. These battles that I'm actually going to showcase today were played way back on Friday, but unfortunately I have many things to do outside of the world of Pokemon Go. However, I did post earlier saying if you'd like to see me post my favourite Great League team in the Ultra League, I'll post it. As you can see by the results on screen, 99% of you said that was a good idea, so if you're one of the few people that is actually going to watch this content, do me a favour and smash that like. This team is tried and tested in the Open Great League. The team's creator, NoBonfireAhead, hit legend with this team way back in Season 20. Kit Kat Deluxe hit legend with this team this season. And I've personally been running it since Season 20 to regain Elo when I have a whole ton of bad ideas and get absolutely clapped. Of course, Ultra League and Great League metas used to be quite different from one another. Back in the day, Ultra League was ruled by very bulky, legendary Pokemon such as Cresselia and Giratina. However, fast forward to Season 22 and the meta in the Ultra League looks very much the same as the Great League. Some of the most common picks are bulky water types like Blastoise and Lapras, and of course everyone's favourite Pokemon, Shadow Typhlosion. All three of these of course are water types that Chesnaught is going to absolutely clap. Season 22 really has become the season of annoying debuffs thanks to the huge buff to the move of Rock Tomb. The two most common Rock Tomb users you're going to see in the Ultra League happen to be Forretress and Registeel. Chesnaught happens to be a grass and fighting type, meaning it's a complete wall to both of them. I'm sure a lot of you all know that I've played this game since pre-season, which is about 5 years at this point. And to this point, I have never faced a single Chesnaught. However, just because no one else is running it doesn't mean it's not going to be particularly good. Let me tell you, this thing is an absolute phenomenal core breaker. The idea of the team, pretty simple. Say switch into Drapion, look to bait out a ground type, kill it with Chesnaught and let Typhlosion do what it does best and cook the backline. This intro's gone on for far too long, so without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, I am not off to the best start. I spent 2 minutes on intro telling you how Chesnaught fully walls top meta threats. I ironically lead it into something that fully walls me. I say switch into Drapion, baiting out Hippowdon. So far the team's working as intended. Jamie Finn even remembered his cojones and called the bait. The opponent fire off one further rock type weather ball. Drapion withstands the damage, and just like that, switch advantage or shield advantage will be mine. We get that shield advantage, and that's pretty much best case scenario. I'd much rather have a shield advantage than switch. If the opponent conceded switch advantage and Ferrowind farmed me down, I think we'd be in trouble. However, I can actually send Typhlosion out that 2-to-1 shield advantage, and the opponent sends out the Panda Bear. The opponent has thrown 5 Karate Chops, which could potentially be a close combat. Of course they bait for the Night Slash, but sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. I throw 1 Incinerate and the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch goes unshielded, and here my opponent displays a very poor gameplay mechanics. They throw what can only be a Night Slash, instant throwing as well. They of course could have thrown 1 Karate Chop, despite being on fractional HP. They could have then forced my final Protect Shield. I, in return, instant throw my Blast Burn. However, there's method in my madness. I wanted to force the opponent's final Protect Shield before giving up mine. I'm then able to shield, getting off that 1 further Incinerate damage, which likely puts this into double Frenzy Plant range. Who said Chesnaught was fully walled by Galarian Weezing? I did, but does it matter? No, it does not, as Chesnaught removes Galarian Weezing from the field of play, and we're off to a 1-0 start. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we are running it back with another Galarian Weezing in the lead position. So my starting elo was around 2500, which at this point in the season, let's be honest, isn't fantastic. No disrespect to anyone that's in this elo range, but you can see a lot of opponents don't quite play optimally. However, as I say that, this opponent's actually already rocking that legend badge, unlike me who's still got a veteran badge, so who am I to comment? But sending in Jellicent into a Drapion is certainly a choice. Clearly they're core broken by Drapion. Unless there's a player off at overheat, they will not be removing Drapion from the field of play. Drapion getting in so much value in this battle. We're going to fire off the Aqua Tail, which isn't going to do much of anything, but all chip damage is welcome. The opponent then catches the next Aqua Tail onto Primeape. Primeape going to tank the Aqua Tail, but it is going to easily put them in a range where a Frenzy Plant will remove them from the field of play. I pivot back out into Chesnaught, fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant obtains me that shield advantage, and at this point, You can throw whatever you like. I've got no intention of shielding Chesnaught. The opponent go for the Rage Fist. We fire off the superpower. Is the opponent willing to double shield here? No, they're not. Down goes Primeape, and this game is just over. Chesnaught, of course, has done its job. The opponent go for the Brutal Swing bait. Why? I'm not entirely sure. I guess they're trying to find a win con, but when they see Typhlosion, they'll very quickly realise there is none. Out comes Typhlosion. One sludge, easily survivable. The opponent go for another Brutal Swing bait. They finally concede the match, and we're going to move swiftly on. Heading into the next battle, my target has been acquired. Despite me fully walling Forretress, it's kind of a scuffed matchup. My Vine Whips are double resisted, and every time I throw a super out, debuffs my own attack and defense, and you've got to counter in the fact they'll be spamming out Rock Tombs if they opt to stay in, debuffing my attack further. The opponent says no thank you to that lead matchup, so I guess we're going to have to wait till later in the video to see it play out, and they send out Zygarde. If I was Callum on toast, I'd say more than fine for me, as this is exactly where the team wants to see Zygarde. Of course, I'd love to align Typhlosion with Forretress. The opponent went for a Bulldoze bait. I'm not entirely sure about that play. They then send out Enamorus, which is a super cool pick. I bank the superpower for the road and then send out Drapion. The opponent fire off the Dazzling Gleam, and ouch, that hurt. Back out comes Forretress. Drapion gonna unleash the Crunch. Crunch does some decent damage. Forretress, especially the non-shadow, is actually insanely bulky. Drapion gonna unleash the next Crunch. Crunch, despite not being lethal, does force that Protect Shield, and at this point this game is simply over. The opponent does have a charge move bank, but as they're so bulky, they're certainly going to lose CMP to Chesnaught. I fire off the superpower. Superpower forced the final Protect Shield, and at this point, you know, I know, and the opponent's about to know this game is simply over. If I'm being brutally honest, I anticipated the opponent top left in. However, if they want that work of Typhlosion, Typhlosion is certainly going to give it to them. The opponent debuffed me with a Rock Tomb, but if they think that's going to save Enamorus, it simply is not. One further Incinerate removes Forretress from the field of play, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see our third glaring Weezing in just 4 battles. How we've overcome the previous ones, let's see if we can make it 3 for 3. We bank some energy, say switch into Drapion. The opponent opts to chip me with a Sludge, and then send out Golisopod. Clearly another opponent, core broken by Drapion, which is kind of mad to be honest. I think Drapion's an insanely common pick. If you want to play Ultra League, don't be weak to Drapion. My Shadow Drapion is a perfect 0-15-15, or a rank 1 if you will. Potentially the opponent thought they could chip me with a Sludge, and then one single move from Golisopod would knock out. My Drapion are far too bulky for any of that nonsense. Once again, we're able to force ourselves a shield advantage here in the mid-game matchup. We're going to send out Chesnaught, get even more energy together, and I think I'm actually going to go for a cheeky one Incinerate running start with Typhlosion. Typhlosion has the energy lead, the opponent doesn't want that work, they concede the match, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Chesnaught into Zygarde. This is where you see just how good Chesnaught is, to be honest. Chesnaught isn't even XL'd, but I personally think it bullies Zygarde. However, the issue with Zygarde lead is they often come with Gastrodon as well, so with that in mind, we're going to say switch into Drapion, looking to bait out that potential ever-annoying Gastrodon. I've played this game far too long, I can read these basic bitches from a mile away. Right on cue, Gastrodon hits the field of play. Drapion able to reach back-to-back crunches. This crunch won't be lethal, but easily puts them into Vine Whip farm down range. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure if I wanted that defense drop there, it just means Chesnaught is going to get less farm. Body Slam at non-stab is going to do pathetic damage. The opponent actually YOLO the Earth Power. Regardless, that's resisted in another easy tank. Back out comes Zygarde. Chesnaught fires off one Vine Whip and the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant forced the Protect Shield. And the opponent throws what can only be a Crunch or Bulldoze. Of course, I don't really want Typhlosion to see this. I play it a bit risky, refusing to shield that charge move. We fire off another Vine Whip and the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant goes unshielded. I look to snipe with Typhlosion and out comes Tentacruel. So my backline hasn't aligned against my opponent's backline particularly well, but Typhlosion with a shield advantage certainly can put in work here. If the opponent's got Acid Spray, I might be in trouble. Thankfully, the opponent full sender Scald, which means they're likely got Sludge Wave or Blizzard. Let's not kid ourselves. If they had Acid Spray, they certainly would have threw it there. Typhlosion fires off the next Thunder Punch, able to outpace Tentacruel to the next Thunder Punch. Typhlosion is a Tentacruel counter confirmed. The opponent sends back out Zygarde, able to resist it, Incinerate farm down, and take that game. I did originally run this team just because I wanted to do some battles and I thought it would be fun, but spoiler alert, we go 5-0 in the very first set. And at that point I thought, do you know what, it might actually be alright. Heading into the next battle, we see Golisopod in the lead position. A somewhat neutral matchup, but once again, despite Golisopod being super common and Chesnaught not being that common, I'd much rather be Chesnaught. A neutral X-Scissor doesn't do too much, however a neutral Frenzy Plant, look at the damage, absolutely disgusting. Once again, I stick to my strategy of looking to bait out any potential ground types the opponent might have, sending out Drapion. The opponent actually sends out Cobalion. Cobalion, a complete wall to Drapion. Well, it doesn't actually wall us. Aqua Tail hits for neutral, but it doesn't do much damage. Whenever I see a Cobalion counter swapped into me, I always throw the crunch first, fishing for that 30% chance for defense drop. If we don't get it, we're just going to start spamming Aqua Tails, to be honest. Even if I do get it, we're still going to spam Aqua Tails after that. If you're actually able to get the defense drop, you'd see that the further two Aqua Tails would actually be lethal. Unfortunately, RNG luck not on my side. I'm kind of forced to send out Typhlosion here, as I'm never ever Vine Whip farming down a Steel type. I send out Typhlosion, the opponent full send the Stone Edge. Beautiful. Typhlosion gets a running start and out comes Zygarde. Of course, good fast move timing, would have been one Incinerate and the Blast Burn. However, I throw two to ensure I can see the Dragon Tail start. Blast Burn, a busted move, but Zygarde is so bulky, I've never seen a Blast Burn do such pathetic damage. This is where not successfully baiting out the ground type could potentially cost me. However, we send back out Chesnaught, the opponent tries to make a catch, feeding me free energy, and potentially we're back in the game. I maintain discipline timing, one Vine Whip and the Frenzy Plant, stripping the first Protect Shield, one further Vine Whip and the next Frenzy Plant, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. Unfortunately, unable to reach the superpower. I recognise that is not Blast Burn range. I get a huge amount of luck getting damage registration error, but regardless, the Blast Burn simply doesn't cut it, and we take our first loss. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Lapras in the lead position. A somewhat neutral matchup, but favoured for Chesnaught. The opponent pivots into Dragon Breath Giratina, and I send out Drapion. So nowadays, if you see Giratina, most of them do run Dragon Breath, and they can actually win this matchup if they're willing to invest Protect Shields. Of course, I could look to match Protect Shields, however, I've got no intention of doing that whatsoever. I just want a shield advantage. The opponent fires off the Dragon Claw, and at this point, I'm gifting the opportunity to the opponent to take Switch. Come on, trainer, you know you want to. The opponent obliges, putting up that Protect Shield, and then fully Dragon Breath farm me down afterwards. Despite Chesnaught being fully walled, Drapion landed the crunch, just easily put him into Frenzy Plant range. We're going to sponge some damage here. Over farm, ensuring we're going to be able to outpace Lapras. Not that we ever need their pacing advantage, as we're 6 Vine Whips or 12 turns to the Frenzy Plant and they're 14 to the Ice Beam. The opponent sends out their third, which is the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death. I send out Typhlosion, the opponent gives me a free Incinerate, and Typhlosion now smelling blood in the water. I'm full sending the Blast Burn. Thunder Punch is super effective, but Blast Burn is better DP and does more damage overall. The opponent throwing on alignment gives me the farm down, the opponent doesn't want that work, and they concede the match. Heading into the next battle, we see Golisopod in the lead position. We've already seen this is quite a good matchup for Chesnaught. I reckon the opponent probably thinks it's a good matchup for them, but let's be honest, who's seen Chesnaught in the Ultra League? I haven't even seen one. However, last time we saw this lead, we actually lost as we were unsuccessful in baiting out the ground type. Let's see if we can manage to bait it out this time. We do exactly what we did in the last battle. Fire off the Frenzy Plant, then send out Drapion. I'm really hoping if the opponent's got a ground type, this time they send it out. Once again, Drapion doesn't draw out a ground type. So potentially there's still got one lurking in the back. Out comes Primate. The opponent allows me to fire off back-to-back Aqua Tails, which likely forces me a shield advantage. We do exactly that. So as long as it's not Zygarde or Gastrodon, I'm feeling pretty good about the situation. Drapion has done its job. The opponent actually YOLO the close combat. Potentially needed to, as I think Rage Fist would have been just about survivable. I send back out Chesnaught, look to fire off the superpower but lose CMP. The opponent fire off the Rage Fist, which is survivable. Meaning potentially I can fire off this move and save Chesnaught as the third shield. To my surprise, the opponent goes all in on Primate. I send out Typhlosion. This is going to be the easiest one shield and Incinerate farm down in my life. The opponent YOLO the close combat. They send out Gator, try to make the catch attempt unsuccessful. The opponent then concede the match. GG's. Heading into the next battle. We found a problem and its name is Guzzlord. Chesnaught is our best response, but the issue is we need to land a superpower and currently the opponent still has 2 shields. Outside of the superpower, every single move that I've got is going to be resisted. I'm going to farm up to the double superpower. I think you're going to see in a later battle, I throw the Frenzy Plant first, as the opponent likely always shield the first move, but regardless, we are going to land a Superpower. Superpower does some decent damage, I then pivot into Drapion, looking to bait out any potential ground types. The concept of baiting with a more expensive charge move is kind of mad, and I don't really bait often. However, if able to successfully force a shield with a Frenzy Plant, the opponent's very unlikely to double shield, and then the Superpower that isn't debuffed would of course do more damage. The opponent actually staying with Guzzlord before sending out Lapras, so it looks like potentially the best Drapion answer was the matchup that I switched out into. Out comes Lapras, we land the crunch, the opponent fires off the Sparkling Aura instantly, looking to move Drapion from the field of play. Down goes Drapion. I'm thinking, is it Typhlosion time? Fuck it, yes it is. I send out Typhlosion, the opponent sends out Skeledirge. Again, Blast Burn will do more than a Thunder Punch, so we're going to YOLO it here. Blast Burn forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Typhlosion still with 2 shields to hide behind. This is likely a Torch Song, but at this point I don't really care. I'm just shielding up everything. The opponent fire off the Torch Song. I overfarm, fire off the Blast Burn on the CMP tie. Expecting Blast Burn to be lethal. Typhlosion, buddy, you let me down. I'm just kidding, that was decent for resisted damage. The opponent fire off a further Torch Song, then send out Lapras. I'm going to fire off the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch is going to do a lot of damage. I'm then going to pivot out into Chesnaught. The opponent's forced to throw, or will just Vine Whip farm him down. The opponent does throw. A Sparkling Aura removes me from the field of play. Back out comes Typhlosion. A lovely one-turn bring in, but at this point it simply don't matter, and the opponent is going to concede the match. Heading into the next battle, we see that absolute dream lead. Cresselia into Chesnaught. This is such a commanding lead. The opponent spams the Rock Tomb as soon as they get it, which I guess isn't a bad idea, to be honest. They're likely trying to debuff me before I hit him with a neutral Frenzy Plant or a super effective Superpower. Here I think I should Superpower, however I'm not sure it's going to be lethal after a debuff, so I'm just going to throw the Frenzy Plant, not debuff on my own defense. I mean, this Rock Tomb isn't going to do much of anything. We've already seen the last one was pathetic. I'm then going to pivot into Drapion now, and I'm going to be able to outpace to the Aqua Tail and pick up a knockout. Aqua Tail actually forced a Protect Shield, which is super questionable. The opponent likely want to debuff me before pivoting out, but I really don't think that shield was worth it. They save Cresselia on fractional HP, nothing more than a third shield, and then send out Big Man Blastoise. A debuff Crunch doesn't do much of anything, but we get the defense drop, meaning this next Crunch is going to be back at full power. Crunch gets the opponent into the red health range. The opponent farms up 2 double Hydro Cannons. That's fine for me. It's very nice to bait out Blastoise as well, as they're running rollout, Typhlosion isn't going to appreciate the fast move pressure. Hydro Cannon doesn't do much of anything to Chesnaught. The opponent then not wanting to concede a farm down, send out Florges. We show him Typhlosion, and that's all she wrote. In the next battle, we see Heliolisk in the lead. Very, very spicy. I haven't seen one of these things in like forever. Back in the day when Breaking Swipe had a 100% chance to debuff, it was a pretty common pick. I'm going to YOLO the Superpower here, as it's cheaper and super effective before sending out Drapion. I have got access to Parabolic Charge that was buffed a few seasons ago, and to be honest it actually does quite a lot, rocking my Drapion below half health. The opponent then tried to catch on Weezing. The catch attempt unsuccessful, but unfortunately I don't run Sludge Bombs, we're just going to crunch it anyway. It's kind of interesting, this matchup kind of reminds you of Drapion into Azuma in the Great League. My Poison Stings are super effective, but they fully wall my charge moves. Of course, Chesnaught shares the exact same typing as Weezing, meaning if I actually saw an opponent running Drapion, which I'm kind of surprised I haven't to this point in the video, I'd fully wall their most common moveset, unless on the off chance we see a Giga Chad running Sludge Bomb. Let's not get distracted, Jamie. I send out Typhlosion, invest a Protect Shield on the Sacred Sword. The opponent not wanting to see the farm down, send out Gator. I fire off the Thunder Punch, force the opponent's final Protect Shield. My trainer, you're going to live to regret that decision. We combo into Chesnaught, Frenzy Plant, massive overkill, and the opponent concedes the match. Heading into the next battle, we've got a friendly encounter against my friend Dale Toonami, a highly talented battler running some insane spice. Bro, don't be Shadow Mamo swining me. We catch the Icicle Sphere onto Drapion. I could have fired off the Aqua Tail there, but I was almost certainly try and catch. He actually banks an Icicle Sphere for the road and then sends out Forretress. Drapion going to reach back-to-back crunches. Unfortunately, Crunch won't be lethal. It gets him into the yellow and he is going to dump his energy. So far this team is ABA weak to fire, which makes me think it's certainly a water type in the back. Rather than sending out Typhlosion, I'm not going to reveal the fire type yet. I'm going to send out Chesnaught, farm up, throw the Frenzy Plant. No, Frenzy Plant won't be lethal. but potentially puts it in a range where I can double resisted Vine Whip farm down afterwards. I know Mamoswine's got a move, so I need to always have more energy than they do. He actually gives up switch, going for the combo play into Mamoswine. And fuck it, even if it's a water type, Typhlosion has access to Thunder Punch. I send out Typhlosion, get a 2 Incinerate running start. Forretress will just get farmed down, and out comes Jellicent. Jellicent, one of the bulkiest water types in the meta. Is this still a winnable game? We're able to fire off back-to-back Thunder Punches at good timing. He instantly double shields, of course. I'm always double shielding as well. As long as the opponent doesn't make a catch. Having a 40 energy running start, I believe this game will end in victory. I'm going to farm up to the double Thunder Punch, so I need 2 to knock out this Jellicent. We've now got the double Thunder Punch. The opponent tries the catch unsuccessfully. We've got the double Thunder Punches required to knock out Jellicent. The first one gets them into the red health range. The second one on the CMP side is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and what a cool team. Heading into the next battle against another friend of mine, Jovember. Honestly, does anyone play PvP anymore? I feel like every set I play someone I know. Golisopod, a nice lead for me, but what isn't nice is a 1-turn delay starting. How do I get denied there? To be honest, to this point, the game hasn't been too bad, but it gets progressively worse from here. That's all I'm saying. I force myself a shield advantage, send out Drapion, and out comes Lickilicky, far too thicky. Of course, this isn't a ground type, but Typhlosion also weak to rock, so nice to see it here and not aligned against Typhlosion. Lickilicky not too commonly seen anymore due to the nerf to rollout, and you're going to see the implications of that right here. Earthquake now, it doesn't get the job done. We survive on fractional HP and able to reach the Aqua Tail, and Aqua Tail will be lethal. If that was last season, I think I would have got knocked out by the Earthquake, as rollout would do 1 more damage each rollout they threw. I send back out Chesnaught just to sponge some energy, as I did give the opponent a hefty farm down. I then send out Typhlosion, saving Chesnaught with energy as a potential third shield, or potentially able to reach a move against whatever's in the back. Jovember tries to make a Thunder Punch catch onto Ampharos. I YOLO the Blast Burn. He looks to call the bait. Ampharos gets one shot, vanquished, back to its Pokeball, and we take that game. GG's, buddy, always a pleasure. Heading into the next battle, we see Lapras in the lead position. The opponent tries to make a catch onto Malamar. I go for some chip a dip here. I think I'm often guilty of not chipping and then dipping often enough, but I don't like that play. Drapion super confident to Malamar, especially my rank 1. You can see 2 superpowers are easily survivable, so I should have really banked that energy, as it would have been more useful against whatever's in the back. However, I do have Drapion, reasonably healthy, but out comes Guzzlord, and this is why I should have saved that energy. Jamie Finn, you are a potato. Of course, hindsight is 50-50. I wasn't anticipating it being a Guzzlord, but it kind of is what it is. I think I threw this battle myself. Although as I say that, we actually get Guzzlord into the red health range, potentially in Blast Burn range. Guzzlord isn't quite Zygarde. Blast Burn still looks pretty good. As the opponent's still got 2 shields, I am going to go for the Frenzy Plant. Of course, it is more expensive, but I don't want to debuff myself. I want to be able to survive another Dragon Claw. The reason I don't shield this is because Lapras has energy, and I can't allow Typhlosion to be an even shield down on energy. I send out Typhlosion. The opponent going to overfarm before firing off the Sparkling Aura. They're already at the next one. What's my win con here? I'm thinking, can I Thunder Punch, undercharge, and incinerate farm down before the next Sparkling Aura is reached? That's what I'm going to attempt. Am I successful? Unfortunately, I'm not. The opponent just about able to reach the next one. I definitely think this game had win cons. Unfortunately, not great execution. Heading into the next battle. Chesnaught into Registeel. The opponent pivots into Forretress. Clearly, this opponent has never heard of a fire type. Typhlosion hits the field of play. The opponent going to full send a Moonblast. I'm going to farm up to 100 energy. It looks like I thought about Thunder Punching, but I've already hit the Blast Burn. Thunder Punch probably got the job done, but regardless, we leave with a Blast Burn. The opponent clearly didn't hear of a fire type, as they don't want any more smoke, and we're going to move swiftly on. We see Chesnaught into Gator. As the opponent's staying in, clearly they have something else that doesn't want to see Chesnaught. With that in mind, I'm going to go for the superpower, as it is cheaper. Knowing I'm going to force a Protect Shield, then attempt an Ice Beam catch onto Drapion. My catch attempt unsuccessful. The opponent is going to opt to dump energy anyway. If the opponent's staying in, they're clearly ABA weak. I don't think they're going to be triple weak to Chesnaught. I don't often shield Drapion, but I am going to shield this up and try and force the opponent out. Out comes Corviknight. So of course, if I would have just sacked Drapion, come back in with Chesnaught, it would now be switch locked against this Corviknight. Drapion going to fire off crunch after crunch. The opponent doesn't even attempt the sand attack farm down, and a wise move as sand attack does pitiful damage. I think this is going to be an ABA water team, so I'm actually going to send out Typhlosion, tank whatever they throw, and look to fully incinerate farm down. The opponent actually bank a charge move, then send back out Gator. If it's double water, Typhlosion has a monstrous attack stat and will win CMP against whatever's in the back. I farm up 2 double Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch, to my surprise, forced the protection. I'm going to bank the Thunder Punch, and please keep that in mind. I have a Thunder Punch banked and then send out Chesnaught. While Corviknight does have a move banked, we're going to win CMP. I'm looking top right. Corviknight re-enters the arena. Corviknight going to be straight in and straight out. Is it double water? Yes, it is. Out comes Jellicent. I'm going to throw 6 Vine Whips, which is alignment. However, the opponent could throw a Surf here, so that's the maximum amount of fast move pressure I can get in. And at this point, they're in Thunder Punch range. The opponent farm up 2 double Surf, but they are never, ever winning CMP. Fuck you, Niantic. Fuck you, Scopely. Where is my move? That is an absolute robbery. I'm sure a few of you saw the short, and that is where that battle came from. Heading into the next battle. Chesnaught into Golisopod. We've already seen this one play out time and time again. No doubt my harsh language in the last battle is going to get yet another video demonetized here on the YouTube platform. But at this point, I don't even care. Because honestly, if this game continues to run how it's been running recently, no one's going to play PvP or watch content in the future, because this game is so tilting to play at times. I'm someone who hasn't hit Legend for the past 2 seasons, and to be honest, I probably won't hit Legend this season either. I really don't take this game seriously whatsoever. You can see in the last battle I was absolutely robbed. I think the only use of this game in this current state is for entertainment purpose only, and I hope you find my content entertaining, because I think that's literally what it is. Bit of entertainment and nothing more. This is not an esport. Of course, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one. Just because I think this game's a joke doesn't mean you shouldn't try and rank up and hit your goals. I personally just lack motivation. I set out a goal many years ago now, 2021, trying to be the first trainer in the world to reach Legend only using Shadow Pokemon. I achieved that in Season 8, then did it 6 seasons consecutively. For me personally, unless we get something past Legend rank or have a game that actually works as intended, I'm literally just going to muck about, meme and dream, and then probably talk loads of rubbish while shoutcasting. It is quite sad that I prefer shoutcasting to actually battling. And to be honest, I prefer shoutcasting other people's battles than my own, because I think they're more entertaining. I don't know what happens, and it literally winds you up every time I play this dumbass game. It has taken me like 27 minutes to go off on a mad tangent, but I think a lot of stuff I'm covering does need to be said. We've seen so many good content creators and good battlers quit along the way. People like Shrady, people like Wallower, people like Oxford U just don't post anymore. How many more people do we need to see? Honestly, quit this game before they do something about it. I'll be honest, I think at this point it is never being fixed. Niantic was a multi-million-dollar company making so much money off Pokemon Go. They've just cashed out, selling it to Scopely. Scopely have essentially monetized it, selling ticket after ticket while it's making money. Do you think anyone cares about PvP? No, simply they don't. I see a lot of people say the Go Battle League doesn't make money, hence they don't care. Directly, it does not. You're correct. However, indirectly, I think people that play Go Battle League spend a lot of money on the game, and I think they're kind of missing a trick here. Let's be honest, if you play Master League, you've got to be a whale, you've got to raid ridiculous amounts, and of course raid passes are not free. A lot of people that play PvP also go on the premium path, which also requires a raid pass or premium pass, whatever that stupid green thing's called, which also costs money. Let's look at some of the Pokemon that are recently released. If you play in Ultra League, especially at high elo, Tinkaton is super common, and guess what? You had to buy an absolute ton of incubators to get that Pokemon. So Niantic, Scopely, the Pokemon company, us PvPers that do spend money on the game. Well, I don't personally, however a lot of other people do. For anyone that's seen my recent community post, you know I was at somewhat of a crossroads in my life. About 2 or 3 months ago, I pledged to post every single day on YouTube and see if I can make something of this channel. When I was posting consistently, I was able to get 175,000 views. I considered adding streaming and actually taking this quite seriously. Unfortunately, my motivation has completely gone. I did take a managerial role at a university, so that is the career path I'm going down. It's kind of sad, to be honest. but I've carried the weight. I'm one of the most vocal content creators anywhere about game state issues, and it really has taken its toll, and to be honest, I can't keep doing this anymore. Whilst the channel is not dead and gone, the career path I'm choosing is going to be a serious career, and content creation is going to be sitting on the back burner. While this is by no means the end of my channel, moving forward, as the post said, potentially the uploads will be like maybe 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. And to be honest, the only people who've got to blame for that are the people that own this company, that don't care about the PvP aspect of this game that we all love, or at least love at times. I don't really know what to say, to be honest. The video has kind of ended on a sour note. I always keep it real. I'm not one to sugarcoat stuff. That's just my thoughts and how I feel about this game overall, and kind of give you all a heads up on where the channel's going in the future. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. The link to my battle submission form is down below, and as always, huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.